Hello, welcome to my channel. I hope to start reviewing some YA books and maybe a few other non-YA fantasy books, or whatever I'm reading. I mean, let's be real. I'll probably talk about some old books, some new books hopefully, but the most recent book that I've read is this book. It's called Fawkes. It was the Owl Crate book a few months ago, so I'm sure there's already a 70 quadrillion reviews about it, but I figured, partially because I haven't watched any of those reviews and I don't know what they're saying, but also because I love history. I really like historical fiction, and I'm really liking the recent surge of YA historical fiction recently. I figured I'd talk about it. So this is a book. It's kind of a blend of magical fantasy and historical fiction. And I really like the fact that they took a real historical event and then blended it with fantasy. It really makes it more interesting while making some really interesting parallels between some of the fantastical things that happen and some of the real things that happen. In the book, you've got... It's based on Guy Fawkes. If you have ever heard of Guy Fawkes Day in England, or if you've seen V for Vendetta, which is not about Guy Fawkes, but it's about a guy who's kind of obsessed with Guy Fawkes and who wears a mask and who goes around and rights wrongs in a very vigilante justice kind of way. Guy Fawkes was a historical figure who attempted with a group of people to kill King James in the like the 1400s. Because this was during the transition that England was making between Catholicism and Protestantism, and it was during a time when Catholics, King James came into the monarchy promising that he would treat Catholics fairly, and then he kind of turned around and killed a bunch of them and persecuted them. In the book, there's no Catholics and Protestants. There are keepers and igniters, and they're two groups of people. Both can practice magic, but keepers only practice single color magic, and igniters can talk to all the colors. The whole idea of color magic is really interesting as well. But so the parallel that they're drawing is between the keepers, who is the older, more established, but kind of falling by the wayside group of people, so they're the Catholics, and the igniters are the newer, more progressive, but maybe not always progressive in a good way. So the Protestants, and some of them are in it for, on both sides. Some of them are doing it for the right reasons, and some of them are doing it for the wrong reasons. Very much like the world we live in today. And just the fact that Nadine, the author, was able to take that historical element and make it fantastical, I found super interesting. I will say, and that's all I'm going to say about the plot, I've probably given away too much, but the book was difficult, to be completely honest. It was difficult for me to get into at first, and that is probably as much of a me problem as it was a book-specific problem. I have been reading a lot of female authors, and this is a female author, but a majority of female authors write about, their main characters tend to be females. So it was difficult for me to kind of change into the mode of a male main character. And while it shouldn't make a difference, it kind of does. To me, even if it's a woman writing the character, it's more difficult for me to relate to a male character. And as a person who spent 20 years reading books for school and college, where I was forced to relate to and to study and analyze nothing but male characters, I guess this is kind of my brain's way of rebelling. Now I'm just like, no, I'd rather not. But once I was able to get past that, it was totally worth it because of the way the plot unfolds, because I will also be completely honest, I knew the name Fawkes and I knew who Guy Fawkes was, but I kind of just went into this book assuming that they didn't have anything to do with each other. Sometimes I do that. I'm like, that's a really cool cover. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. I'm just going to jump in. and I didn't know that it was this historical parallel with the actual events that happened. So that was fun when I was like, hey, the keepers are the Catholics, the igniters are the Protestants. And then by a complete accident, I was reading something else, and one of the main side characters, who is an alchemist named John Dee, was an actual person and who was an advisor of Queen Elizabeth. I don't know, history nerd, I get really excited when I come across stuff like that. So all in all, especially if you like historical fiction, especially if you like historical fiction with a twist, because they definitely took a real story and threw color magic in it. That's fun. Definitely pick up this book. I'm a fan.